Breaking fresh ground today on Cheery Tunes with this record. This is another one that I've had since a child. Belonged to my sister and I, and unlike other records of the period, story records that we had, for some inexplicable reason this one never lost its sleeve. All the others seem to have done. It's the Toytown mystery, and the Toytown books featuring the star of the shows that were Larry the Lamb and the other cast of characters were mainstays in children's entertainment in the 1950s, I think. I don't ever remember hearing them on the radio. I don't remember seeing them on the television. But that's what spawned this series of records, of which this appears to be number 2. I don't know if there are any others. Well, obviously there's a number 1. I don't know if there are any ones further to that. His Master's Voice, extended play, 45 RPM, and the cast of characters, all people I'd never heard of, but it's quite a small cast, as you can see. Someone called Redvers Kyle is playing 1, 2, 3 characters. Larry the Lamb, played by a lady called Dorothy Gordon, and all the other characters, apart from the mayor, are played by Wilfred Babbage, the Mayor Raymond Rollet. Music arranged and conducted by Ron Goodwin. The Old Press published this and all the other Toytown stories in book form. I won't give you a synopsis of the plot, but also available in this series T for 2. That's presumably the number 1 in the series. Anyway, without further delay, I'm going to play you this, and of course I'll have to play both sides of this record, because otherwise you'll be left with a cliffhanger. So here goes.
The square is one of the most important places in Toytown. On one side is the town hall, and right in the centre of the square, upon a tall pedestal, stands the statue of the mayor of Toytown. One morning, as he entered the square, Ernest the policeman paused in astonishment and stared hard, for the statue of the mayor of Toytown had been painted bright green.
Oh, Mr. Ernest, sir, you do look fine this morning. What can you see?
Take a look at the statue of his worship over there.
Oh, Mr. Ernest, sir, it's turned green.
Turned green? It's been painted green, that's what's the matter with that. Green paint. And still wet. Oh, this will be a great upset for the mayor. He thought a lot of that statue, he did.
At that moment there trotted into the square the long, low figure of Dennis the Dachshund. He sniffed the cobblestones as he came along and presently stopped beside the statue. Then he blinked his eyes very rapidly and looked again.
Ah, you may well blink, my lad. That's paint, that is. Green paint.
So, there is green paint also on the cobblestones? It is a trail of paint out of the square leading.
Huh, you are a clever hound, and what we've got to do is to follow the trail of the paint.
It will lead us to the criminal, was it?
Yes, it was. Why don't you speak grammatical? Dennis, you being so low-built and accustomed to sniffing, shall help by leading the way. Come along, my lads.
The trail of paint led out of the square into Ark Street, and then suddenly ceased before the house of Mr. Grasser. And against his house was propped a ladder upon which stood Mr. Grasser himself. He was engaged in painting the shutters of one of his windows. A pot of paint hung from a rung of the ladder, and the paint he was using It was bright green.
Mr. Grocer, sir, I want a word with you.
What is it? Can't you let me alone to paint the house in peace without shouting and yelling at me like that? It ought not to be allowed.
There's another thing what ought not to be allowed. Now, Mr. Grocer, come down off that ladder and answer my questions. And answer careful, because what you say will be took down and used in evidence against you.
What do you mean by speaking to me in that manner? Me, one of the oldest and most respectable citizens of Toytown.
No respectable citizen would so far forget himself as to paint the statue of his worship the mayor. And to paint it green of all colours.
Paint the statue of the mayor? You think I would waste expensive green paint on that statue of the mayor?
What you might call a trail of blobs and splashes of the said paint lead directly to your door, Mr. Grocer. And I find you in a pot of the same identical paint, and with the evidences of your crime all over your hands, and even running up your sleeves.
He was the criminal. It was a disgrace. Send that old beggar hound away. He's ashamed to look us in the face, Larry, my friend. It is not surprising. Come, let us go. Let me tell you, Constable, that I purchased this paint from the inventor. And as the tin leaked, it's very likely it left a trail across the square. If you go and look, you'll probably notice the trail leads on back to the inventor's workshop. When you found that out, I shall expect you to come back here and apologize to me. Apologize, I said. Go away! Go away!
Mr. Grocer was quite right. The trail of paint crossed the square and led them directly to the inventor's workshop. As they entered the workshop, the inventor laid down his hammer and looked up in surprise.
Ah, good morning, officer. Have you come to see my new sausage machine?
Sausage machine?
Yes, I finished it yesterday. This is it.
I see you've painted it green.
It is really a very useful appliance. You put the meat and stuff in this end, turn the handle attached to this wheel, and sausages come out at the other end. But it's rather tiring.
Oh, sir, why don't you let Dennis turn the wheel? He is a turnspit by trade, and I expect he'd work for you if you gave him some pocket money. He gets into a wheel and works his legs just as if he was walking. That makes the wheel go round. Dennis is awfully clever at turning things. You ought to see him.
That's a splendid idea.
No, Mr. Inventor, sir. I didn't come here to talk about turning wheels, nor yet about sausages. I remarked that you'd painted your machine green.
Well, why not, officer? Green is a nice, cheerful color.
Ah, then let me tell you, Mr. Inventor, that last night, between supper time and breakfast, someone painted the statue of his worship a bright green. And what I should like to know is, what were you doing last night between the times mentioned?
As a matter of fact, I sold tins of this paint to Mr. Grocer and several other tins to other people. I forget. I remember now, I took a tin out last evening after tea to deliver to someone. I put the tin down somewhere and forgot about it.
Which means you left a tin of paint somewhere for any criminal to get hold of.
I feel sure I left it in the square. I remember thinking how nice and clean the mayor's statue looked and how like his worship.
Then at that time, you are certain the statue was not painted?
Absolutely certain, for I recollect the sentry who walks up and down in front of the town hall had just come on duty for the night.
Ah, I forgot that sentry. I must see him at once. Larry and Dennis, my lads, you run to the square and look about for that pot of paint. When you've found it, come and tell me.
Ernest went to the town hall to report this crime to the mayor, who was extremely angry when he learnt what had happened to the statue of which he had been so proud. He grew calmer when he understood how quickly and thoroughly the officer was tracking down the criminal.
I can hardly believe that any person in Toytown would deliberately paint my fine statue green.
He might have painted it purple with yellow spots, your worship.
Oh, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Ernest, we found it. This is the paint. We remembered we saw Mr. Inventor last evening carrying the tin into the square.
That sounds to me a trifle suspicious.
Come here, you lamb. What's that on the sole of your hoof? Ha! Green paint?
Oh, sir, I expect I walked in the trail this morning.
This is very suspicious. The only thing is that neither of these animals is tall enough to have committed the crime.
At that moment, the mayor's secretary opened the door and showed in a soldier.
Now, my lad, repeat to his worship what you told me about last night.
Last night at 8 p.m. I went on duty for to perform my duties as sentry. At 8:15 p.m. I saw the inventor enter the square carrying some object. He put it down near the statue and then wandered off, dazed like. A little while after, I saw these two animals come into the square. They both went up to the object.
You mean my statue?
No, sir. The object was proved to be a pot of paint. They stood there talking, and then they both trotted off. Then I took another look at the object, and also at the statue, which I find is a very soothing thing to look at when on duty, and nothing to do.
This appears to be a very intelligent man. Now tell me, my man, when you looked at the statue then, was it green or its natural colour?
Natural colour, sir.
Then clearly these two animals had no hand in the affair.
After that, sir, I saw somebody come into the square. It was the magician. He walked straight across the square, and then a most remarkable thing happened. A barrel came rolling after the magician.
Rolling? You mean the magician was pulling a barrel behind him?
No, sir, it was rolling all by itself. I says to myself, that's magic, that is, magic. And I come over all goosey. I went into my sentry box and put my head in the corner and stayed there. And after a bit I heard the barrel rolling again. And I just peeped out and there it was, rolling back the way it had come. And when it got light in the morning, I suddenly noticed the statue had turned green. And that's the truth, sir, believe me or believe me not.
It seems quite clear now, officer, what happened. The magician enchanted or bewitched the statue. That's why it turned green. With the evidence we have, I feel sure we shall be able to detect the criminal.
Do you, your worship? Well, this is the evidence. Mr. Grouser and the inventor both had green paint in their possession, and Mr. Grouser's appearance is very suspicious. The inventor left a pot of paint in the square. These two animals, Larry and Dennis, knew all about the paint, and then forgot it, or so they pretend. Nobody else came into the square except the magician and a magic or enchanted barrel. What I want to know is two things. One, who was the criminal? Two, how did he do it?
The mayor of Toytown had just finished breakfast.
Secretary, those sausages which the inventor sent me were excellent. I will convey my compliments to the inventor and inform him that they afforded entire satisfaction.
But just as he said this, Larry the lamb rushed in.
Why, good gracious me, my poor lamb. Come.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, have you eaten your breakfast yet?
Breakfast? Certainly I've had breakfast. I've had some excellent sausages which the inventor sent me.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, then you've eaten my friend Dennis.
Good morning, officer. Do you think you can do anything with this lamb? He seems almost too overcome to speak.
But I don't understand this.
I was just saying what excellent sausages they were.
Do you mean, Larry, my lad, that your friend Dennis got mixed up with a sausage machine?
Oh, yes, sir. We think that he fell in it.
Now, try and tell us what happened.
Oh, Mr. Ernest, you remember the inventor's sausage machine and how he had to turn a handle to make it work? to buy some more pepper and stuff, but when we came back there was no sign of Dennis, but in the tray there was a great pile of sausages. And this morning the inventor was very unhappy and he said, "I'm afraid Dennis fell into the machine last night and now he's sausages." Oh, poor Dennis. He was so clever at turning things. He often used to get inside a barrel and roll it about just as if it was a wheel.
Very sad. I'm sorry. Why, officer, why are you looking at me like that?
I have solved the Toytown mystery. It was Dennis the Dachshund who painted your statue green. It was him in the magic barrel.
Yes, it was. He bet me a stick of licorice that he would get by the sentry and do it. He got inside the barrel and rolled past the soldier. And then he got out and stood on the barrel and painted the statue. And then he got back and rode home.
And now see what's happened to him. He's sausages.
He's not. There he is, peeping round the door.
Oh, Dennis, where have you been?
I got tired of working that sausage machine, so I went for a walk to Arkville.
A most affecting scene.
Affecting it may be, your worship, but my duty is clear. This hound is the criminal we have been searching for.
I think, in the circumstances, we'll say nothing more about that statue affair, officer. After all, animals will be animals, and I'm sure it will not occur again.
I will not do it again, I promise. I also apologize to his worship. Come, Larry, my friend, let us go. Have you had your pocket money this week?
Yes, Dennis. Would you like a ride to Arkville?
No, my friend, but you owe me a stick of licorice.
So that's the Toytown mystery. Bit of a long listen, I appreciate that, but I hope you find it entertaining anyway. That's all for today. Bye for now.